Okay, so we've completed the front of the shirt. We're now going to move on to the back. Now, the thing that you really must take care of is that if you're copying a garment, that the front, back, sleeve are all taken from the same side. I've experienced copying garments where I've mistakenly copied the body from one half of the garment and the sleeve from the other side to find that they don't match. Mistakes can happen in production and things are not always as accurate as you would hope. So if you know that they actually were connected originally, then if there are any discrepancies, you will know that it was the way that you've copied it, and then just try and correct it from that position. Okay, so I'm going to work from my centre back. I've pressed in a crease. If I hadn't have been able to press a crease, I would have done a row of pins. If it had been a toile, I would have just drawn a line. But in this case, I've made a crease. I've drawn a line on my paper, and I'm going to line the crease up to the line on the paper. So I'm going to start at the top. And I will be checking that my pin is going through the line. So I'm seeing the pin come through the fabric on the crease and then taking it through the line on the paper. Okay, we're now nice and secure at the centre back. I'm just going to put one more pin in. There, to secure the ends. Right. So we're then looking to see how the garment will lay flat. You can see from the lower parts that we can get it to lay flat just to the armhole point in line with the back dart. So what I'm going to do is that we're going to put a pin at the end of the dart and a row of anchor pins across the back at that point. I've got a pin at the bottom of the dart. And securing the lower body. Okay, we have minor wrinkles here. This has been caused by the dart, and once we've copied the dart and released that amount of fabric, this will be able to lay flat. It's not possible at the moment for the garment to lay flat on both sides of the dart at the same time. So I'm wheeling through the dart. Again, just a reminder that If this were a delicate item, I would just be marking about every centimetre with my awl rather than going through with the tracing wheel. Now at the end of each dart, I'm going to go crossways, just so that I know I have a definite end. I'm going to just wheel up the beginnings of the side and go around the bottom. Another advantage of garments being stripes is that you can always calculate how much has been taken into the dart. We can see that if we follow the stripes, that the dart was from the side of the middle brown stripe to the edge of the orange stripe. So this would tell us that our dart was the distance between these two pins, so that we can double check at the end that we have the correct amount into our dart. Now, to allow this fabric to be able to move to the sides and this part lay flat and our dart to open, we would need to remove the centre back pins just from that area. We can then allow the fabric to move across and pin it so that this area is now flat and smooth. I'm going to tuck the sleeve inside again so that you can see more clearly the armhole. And you can see that once I've allowed the dart to swing over to the side seam, I'm able to pin further up into the armhole, but not all the way to the shoulder. I'm going to wheel down the side seams and round the beginning of the armhole, and then I'm also going to wheel through the dart again. Okay, so I'm going to remove the pins from the side seam and through the hem, and the bottom of the dart. When I lay this up, we can see that our dart is opened. I will be double checking this amount when I measure the stripes towards the end, and if it hasn't opened quite enough, I can see that the side seam is curved, and I would probably add a little to the side seam and increase the width of the dart. Okay. I'm now going to raise the level of the anchor row so that I can do the upper back shoulders. Okay, now that that's secure, I can take this row out. And allow the garment to sit more smoothly further up the top where the back joins the yoke, and I'm able to then copy this part of the garment. We can see that there is a slight amount of bubbling. This could have happened over time because we don't tend to ease fabric into the yoke on men's shirts. Sometimes we put a pleat in to give it extra fullness, but this may well be that over time the stitching of the yoke has maybe shrunk a little and just pulled that in slightly, but not enough for us to really worry about. It might be that when we look at our pattern at the end, we get a slight indentation at the side of a few millimeters, and we would just add it on. I'm checking, it's moved over slightly, it's distorted. I'm just checking that my centre back is on the line. I'm going to need to put a second pin in because my paper tore slightly and I want to be secure at this point. I'm putting pins in, going along the yoke seam. Okay, now I'm secure. I'll go along with my tracing wheel. Now, the yoke is attached to the top of the shirt. There is actually a small dart that has been taken out through the pattern at this position to allow the shirt to bend over the shoulder blades. We can see this. I'll make it clearer once I've copied this, because it's easier for me to show you it here by allowing it to be at the centre back position when I'm copying. I'll then do a little snip, close it, and you'll be able to see where the dart actually is. Making sure that my yoke is allowed to lay flat, which leaves us with a little bubble here, but it's the same as the front and under the arm. Anything where there's been a rounded shape that causes a garment to be stitched through a cross grain will always stretch slightly, even if it's just a couple of millimeters. I'm wheeling through. I am doing the armhole part again because I wasn't sure if I'd done it, so if you're ever in doubt, just wheel over it again. I've got a crease at my centre back, so I'm going over the crease line, and then I'm going to wheel around the neck hole. You can see that when I'm actually going round areas that connect, I don't just try and stop at where the seam ends, I continue across. This makes it easier when we're actually bringing the pattern pieces back together again, so that we can tell the line that was created when the two pieces were joined. Okay, so I'm going to take this off and we're going to look at what happens at the centre back neck. Okay, you can see here that the centre back didn't line up in the same way. The centre back, okay, I'll do that again. You can see that the centre back of the yoke didn't line up clearly to the centre back line through the main body. I'm just penciling over the lines. I will draw them more clearly when we're putting the pieces together. and I'm coming round my armhole. You can see that I draw my lines past the end position so that we can see exactly where they met. Now, towards the end, when I show you what happens across this line, is that when these two pieces are separated and the back yoke, which is a continuous piece, so it must meet at the centre back, when this area closes, it will open there. Yeah? So this will be made clearer later in the demonstration.